What's up, guys? So I got asked a good question about coaching and training partners. And the guy was telling me that he has a good coach, but his training partners aren't very good. So he was considering leaving that gym and going to a gym with some better training partners. And so I told him I'd make a video on this. My answer is always go with the better coach, and you should be able to cross-train in other gyms, if that makes sense. And this is for someone who's trying to fight at a high level. Like my whole channel is basically based on fighters that want to try to pursue going to the UFC and actually think they have a chance and are willing to do what's needed to get there, right? And I'm telling you right now, without world-class coaching, you're never making it to the UFC. And if you do make it to the UFC, you're going to get cut. You're going to go 2-2 and you're going to get cut, and you're not going to have a good career. You're not going to have a career in the UFC. You could get to the UFC if you're special, if you're talented, if you're athletic, you're strong, fast, whatever, tall, whatever attributes you have. But you're not staying there without world-class coaching. You're just not. You're not going to have a career from it. I mean, you would have to be the freakiest of athletes to make that work without high-level coaching. So I would say you learn from your coach. If your coach has world-class technique, you need to learn from your coach that has high-level technique. And then maybe go once or twice a week to other gyms and spar and cross-train. And someone said, I had someone say to me recently that their coach wouldn't let them cross-train at all. Well, if your coach is not letting you cross-train, it's because they're not that good to begin with. So maybe you think they're better than what they are. So your coach, if your coach is really a good world-class coach, he should be perfectly fine with you cross-training. That's the number one red flag of coming into a gym, is when your coach won't let you cross-train. If your coach won't let you cross-train, that is a major red flag that they're not as good as you think they are. They're just not. Now, I will say, from a coach's standpoint, in dealing with the fighter, it's very annoying having good technique and knowing you know your stuff and you know how to coach, whatever you're coaching, striking, grappling, it doesn't matter. And then your students go elsewhere to learn BS technique and or just mediocre technique when you have all the tools to teach them real technique. So I did this here when I was in Dallas-Fort Worth. When I was in the UFC for almost 8 years, I would do my training camps out of state, and I would go to Thailand sometimes. I've been there 5 times, been to Holland. I would do my training camps at a world-class camp in Maryland outside of DC. But when I was here, there was one jiu-jitsu coach that I had that was world-class. By far the best jiu-jitsu coach in the area, by far. His name is Master Cena. He was a world champion jiu-jitsu, black belt world champion, masters champion in the older division. But he was also an Iranian judo national team member. I mean, this guy was world-class. And it got to a point, when I was in the UFC, I basically was able to, when you're in the UFC, you can pretty much go anywhere you want and train for free, and people really don't mind because you're bringing attention to the gym, and also you probably work hard, you probably are a good training partner for their people, so they don't mind it. So it got to a point where this guy's technique was so much better than everyone else's, but I didn't have a ton of guys there. There was a couple guys there that were good and started getting really good when I was there. But the first few years, it wasn't like I had some high-level training partners. But the technique was so good, and he was such a good coach, and he explained stuff so well that I could really understand and adapt it to my game. It got to a point I would go there Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I would do his beginner jiu-jitsu class. I would train with day one people, being full blown in the UFC, because also the way he structured the class was amazing. You would walk in, he would say, "Do you have any questions?" And I would have a grip of questions. I'd have them written down on a piece of paper, and I would say, "Hey, can we try this?" So basically, I almost got a private lesson every Tuesday and Thursday, because everyone would look at me, and when he said, "You have questions," they knew I had it, so they would look at me and I would ask the questions, right? But it got to a point I would only go to him for technique, for jiu-jitsu, and I would go other places and cross-train. And then he ended up hooking me up with other world-class Iranian wrestling coaches in Dallas as well. So it got to a point I would only do my technique from these people here locally. The Iranian national team member, judo, jiu-jitsu world champion, Master Sina, and then my Iranian wrestling coaches, Coach Youssef and Javad and Ali. And I got to a point where I would only learn techniques from these guys when I was in Dallas-Fort Worth, because they were so much more technically better than anybody in the area. But I would go other places and roll and get rounds sometimes. So that's how I would say do that. Now, obviously, you're not in the UFC if you're probably watching this video, and your goal is to get to the UFC. So I would say that you may have to pay a drop-in fee to go to these gyms, but if you feel like your training partners aren't good enough, but you have a high-level coaching, I would say stay with your high-level coach, straight up. But I would say go to these places and cross-train and save your money and do a drop-in fee if you have to. But I would definitely stay with the higher-level coach if the goal is for the long term is to try to get to the UFC. You cannot have a career in the UFC without high-level coaching. So that's just my advice. And now, if you're blessed and live in an area, in Florida or California or something that has a major camp, has a big MMA camp, like Alliance MMA where Dominic is from, or Uriah Faber's gym, or Henry Hoof's gym in Florida. If you have world-class coaching and world-class training, then you're blessed. You're blessed and have the best of both worlds. But most people aren't in that scenario. And if you don't have a background, you were a D1 college wrestler or any college wrestler at all, or you didn't have 10 years of jiu-jitsu when you were younger, so you're starting a little later, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're starting this journey, you have to have good coaching. There's no way around it. You're not gonna make it to a high level if you don't, and if you do make it, it's because you're special and you're not gonna stay there, because you're gonna run into other special people that have the technique as well as the special attributes you have. So just my advice, I would say if you have good coaching, you need to stay with good coaching. Now, you need to make sure they're good. Now, you can go around and look and see who's good and who's not. But also with training partners, guys, just because you see a lot of training partners at a gym, like you can go to a gym and have a lot of sparring, then that doesn't mean they're good. That just means, like, I used to do that. When I first started, I went to a couple gyms and I thought, oh man, there's so many guys here sparring. This must be a good place. And then after a year or two, I started noticing, hey, well, these guys really aren't that good, and their records are 2-2 or 4-4. They have 500 records on the regional scene level, amateur or pro. And so they're not really that good of a gym. They just keep bodies. And there's a lot of gyms out there that keep. Sometimes you're going to find high-level coaches can't keep people. And the reason why they can't, because their standards are really high. Remember, guys, there's only X amount of people going to the UFC to begin with. There's only, right now, there's only 600-700 people in the entire world in the UFC to begin with. So it's a limited number to begin with. So I've seen some of the world-class coaches that I've trained with not be able to keep students because their standards are high, where you can go up the street to another gym and they'll just let everyone spar every day. They'll let everyone come in 20 minutes late. They'll let everyone do spar 3 rounds, set down 2, then come back in and not take it serious, right? So they keep bodies, but those people are all journeymen. They're mostly not winning, don't have winning records. So it can be tough staying with a high-level coach because their standards are high. That's why they're high level. Their technique is high level, but their other requirements are high level as well. But to answer your question, I would say stick with the high-level coaching, and then I would seek cross-training elsewhere. There's also options of open mats. You can go to multiple gyms and go to open mats. There's plenty of gyms on the weekends. They have a Saturday morning sparring session where people from other gyms come. They have a Sunday morning or Sunday evening sparring session. They have Friday nights. Like I know of multiple gyms here in my area that have open mats that allow other people to come. So drop in, check them out, check the open mats out, and see how it goes. But if your coach has high level technique, you need to stay with your coach and then seek the cross training a little bit elsewhere. Is my advice, guys. Hope that answers your question. If you have any other subjects you'd like me to go over, just leave a comment below. And if you're new to martial arts, looking for a gym in your area, get my book, The Ultimate Guide to Choosing a Martial Arts School and Instructor. Link is in the description. Thank you, guys.